Aloha and welcome to another edition of A-Tort Tutorials. It's been a second since I actually sat and did anything. I know I've been slacking, but life has been kind of crazy. Anyway, cutting the chase, I am getting a lot of questions from people saying they don't know how I get my color to be where it's at. So I'm going to give you a quick little tutorial just on Basic 101 on processing a file. So as you see, I'm using Capture One Pro to kind of browse my images. You can use Lightroom or whatever you want, iPhoto, Preview, whatever it is. I have a picture of a beautiful sunset taken in Hawaii, and as you see, it's already beautiful, but at the same time, I'm going to take this image, I'm going to drag and bring it over to Photoshop CC 2014. It's going to open up in Camera Raw, which is the dialog box, the plugin where you process a raw file. Now, if you look at it, it kind of changed a little bit. It looks a little different, but if I just take Vibrant slider, move it up, I can maybe change exposure a little bit, maybe even saturation. Now again, when you capture a raw file, the camera is doing no processing to your file. So it's up to me or up to the photographer to do everything you want to the image. That's the beauty of it. You have full control of how you saw the image. Now when I see an image, I see it in vivid Technicolor. I see it like this. This is basically how it looked to me, exactly like this. Maybe you can go and start stylizing it a little bit. I can play and see because I have the options to play and see. I can, play with the white slider, but if I use Command Z in Photoshop, I can make an adjustment and just kind of go before, after. Does this look better? Does that look better? This, and just kind of toggle back and forth and see what you kind of prefer. I kind of like that actually, which is weird, so it's kind of just pumping up the whites a little bit. Now, sometimes when you make an adjustment or a move, you want to compensate with another move. So I'll show you. I'm just going to kind of cruise through and show you what I would do. It's not going to be able to be followed by everyone if you don't have experience with Photoshop or this. So I'm going to kind of adjust my contrast a little bit. Again, Command Z to toggle and see which looks better. It looks better with the little contrast move. Now, the sky looks great to me. So I'm going to open this up. I'm opening it up as a smart object, so this is a little different. Again, I'm not going to get into it now, but it's going to open up as a smart object. Oh, okay. So smart object. Now, if you see right here on the right hand of my layers palette, I'm going to use the control key or right click. I'm going to go to new smart object via copy. Now I can go back in and double click, and I'm just going to work on something for this little lower part. Ideally, this water area, I would want it to be a little bit brighter, maybe something like that. So the water just looks a little bit better exposed and not, has a little interest. And I'm going to see. So I'm going to go ahead. Again, I'm not expecting everyone to follow. I'm going to hold the Option key down. I'm going to press this layer mask icon. It's going to conceal all and fill it with black. So now I can paint with white. Again, not going to be able to follow everything. I don't expect you to. But now I can paint this little area and kind of just at least expose the water, and maybe even just use like a lower opacity brush with a soft edge and just kind of paint this in a little bit. Maybe even see how that looks. And now, if I want to, I can go back in, since it's a non-destructive layer smart object, it's not rasterized yet, and I could even increase the exposure. So say watch, I can go ahead and increase, and I'm just looking at this water area right here. So all this area is what it's going to be affected, because that's what I actually painted. So now I got that looking the way it does, and to me it looks a little much. It's just kind of taking away from the interest of the sky. So I can lower the opacity of this layer. There's my bird saying hello. So maybe, let me see, that's at 60%. Maybe at like 86, something like that, maybe a little less, 83, somewhere in that area. So now at least it has a little separation. The water looks white like it should, or the spray. And to me, that looks pretty good. So now I can show you, and that can be a pretty final image. Now again, I'm going to save this. So I'm going to save this as a working file. So I'm going to go put it in processed. And the way I name it is basically 2015. Actually, I'm not even going to date it. But if I was to date it, it would be the year, month, date. But I'm just going to name this, you know, Oahu Sunset Fire Working. So I know it's a working file. I'm going to save it as a PSD. So you're going to see it's a Photoshop file. And that's it. So now when I open this, I can get back into these smart objects or these layers, and they're not going to be ruined. So I can go and say a client wanted something printed, or someone wanted the image of this. I can go back in, like, oh, I want the sky a little darker, a little whatever. I can go and easily do that and modify it. So now I'm going to flatten this with a keyboard shortcut, which I just kind of custom made. I can even do Command J and duplicate the layer, and maybe even bring down my ruler, and the horizon is a teeny bit off. It's not really level. So I can go ahead and just, it's a huge file. It's a D810 file, so basically a 40 megapixel file. And you can see, I'm going to hide the ruler. Actually, that's a little much. So I'm going to go back in, rotate it again. And as you see, if you bring down the guide, this little guide will kind of show you where you need to be. So maybe a little bit more. And then just visually look. That looks good to me. Now, the canvas needs to be cropped a little bit, because if you see, if I zoom in, oh, I moved it. You see this edge right here? So I need a crop for that, to get rid of that. So essentially, you can just kind of, I can move the little crop mask. So you know, this is a little tip with the arrow keys. Shift will move it faster, like we'll move it in bigger increments. And then if you hold the control key down, it will actually move these little bars out with real precision. So I can go and, like, see this? Normally it's kind of a bigger movement, but I can do it really slowly with more control, and like just stop right before the edge if I hold the control key down. So that's kind of cool. A lot of people don't know that. Crop, and again, it's a massive file, so I don't really care that I took some of that out. And I'm going to save it again. So I'm going to save this Oahu Sunset Fire version 2, V2. Save it again. Now I'm going to go and do, whoop, someone's chiming in. Image size, I'm going to take this to 72 DPI, or pixels per inch, because I'm just going to upload it to Facebook or something, so I don't need a huge file that people can print, and, you know, that's not cool. And I'm going to say do 1200, which is even on the larger size, but I don't really care. It's kind of cool. Let people see it how it kind of needs to be. I could even show you a little trick, which is kind of neat. I'm going to change it to an 8-bit file, because again, no need for 16-bit online. What else can I do? I could even go into here. I can go into my On1 software, go into Perfect Enhance 8. And I could have done that with my full large res file, which would have been better, but I'm just kind of cruising around. So now if I go in the enhancements, I could even use one of these presets and go like that and apply it. And I already know it's going to look good because I've used this stuff so much. I like On1 software, so you know. They're not paying me, but they actually do hook me up with software. I beta test for them. And that's it. Now the only thing next to do would be to bring in a watermark. So I have a watermark already saved in a working file. If you see, I'm going to take that. Whoop. Wait, where is it? I know I got like some Lonnie's watermark. It's a PSD file, so it's a working file, meaning it's on separate layers. I'm going to take my move tool, which is V, keyboard shortcut. And if you see, I'm going to take it and I could move it around. Do you see this little thing? There it is. I'm going to drag it and I could bring the arrow right to this tab. And then there it is. It's now in my file. Boom. I could go in here and I could adjust stuff. Like I could adjust the glow on here. Let me see. You know, I can do that, or I can, you know, do whatever I want actually. I can do red maybe. No, that doesn't look good. Let me go back there. I don't really mind that. Maybe a little, that's a little much. But anyway, it is all into details, and a lot of times less is more with watermarks. Big obnoxious watermarks aren't that great, but whatever. It's good to let people know who took the photo, especially with social media when it gets spread all over the universe. So maybe make it a little smaller. Flatten the image. I could even use my sharpen tool and cruise over that so it pops a little bit more. I can even use the sharpen tool to go over the water a little bit. All these little things, believe it or not, add up. And that's the whole thing. The key to making a good image pop is to make all these little subtle movements to where you can't tell what actually has been done. So like a big movement, say I go ahead and just pump up the saturation. It's like, oh, okay, that, well, obviously looks pretty insane, like I'm on acid. But if you do too much, it just affects everything and it just doesn't look natural. Like that, you know, it looks kind of cool, but it's a little bit unnatural. Now, if I went ahead and did that and just maybe added a little piece of it, whoa, giant brush. You know, say I just wanted to, you know, affect the color on like the rock, like I just kind of did. I brushed in just a little bit. So now, you know, there, and you just see this little fade command too. All of these things, you're just kind of throttling your adjustments. So that's the key to making a good image, as I said, is to make real subtle adjustments that no one could really notice, and it all builds up into a beautiful file. So anyway, aloha. I know there was a ton of info and a lot of talking with that. I don't expect you to grasp everything, but for those who can, cool, and for those who can't, just stay patient. You keep on shooting, keep on working on your images, and it will all kind of click together. Originally, when I first started Photoshop, it was totally overwhelming, and I became pretty proficient at it. So anyway, talk soon. Peace out.